So there we go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I know you all expect me to say it, so I'm going to say it, but I do know that we are actually live, I think, this time around. Good morning, everybody. Yes, you've guessed it. It is Saturday morning. I think it's around the 5th of June, but I'm not really sure of the date. But I do know that it's Saturday morning and that it is story time. I was thinking that this time, well, actually, an hour ago, at this time last Saturday, we were in our webinar, and Grey Eagle was speaking to us. Even as I'm speaking to you now, Grey Eagle was actually speaking through me, doing our direct voice communication. And the time just goes whizzing past, don't you think? Anyway, here we are again. So first of all, before we begin, yes, as always, Greg is standing to my right side, so we say good morning to him, and also Chris. Are you there, Chris?
I am in the distance. Good morning,
So,
Rosemary. Good morning, everyone.
where are you?
I'm in Maryland today.
Oh, right. Oh, traveling. That's right. It's your weekend off, even though you've taken this time out to do story time with me. Yes. Yes. And we won't be doing anything tomorrow either, everybody, because Chris has got the weekend off. So she's dumped us. She's ditched us. Except for this morning, I'm grateful to say. So we're going to be doing our story time this morning, but no cooking tomorrow. Well, not for any of you. Do you know what I might do? Just because I can. I might just do a restream all by myself. Of course, I might really muck it up because I don't actually know what I'm doing. But anyway, let's focus today on this morning and this morning's story time. And we get so many people asking. So, Rosemary, how did you begin and what was it like? And what was it like when you were a kid and so on and so forth? So I thought I'd tell a story all about me. I thought it's going to be a me day today. Uh, so here we go. Is everybody ready? Are you ready, Chris?
We are ready.
Is there anybody there?
There are people here.
Because what happens is people all of a sudden they think, oh, quick story time, and I've forgotten all about it, and they rush in and they miss half of story time because I've started telling the story straight away. But guess what? That's what we're going to be doing this morning. So for all of you early birds out there, good morning again. And once upon a time. So once upon a time, let's see. We're going back into the 80s, into the 1980 something, 6, 7 or something like that, maybe 8, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'd have to think about it. I was very young then, right? And I'd been working as a spiritual medium for quite a while at this point, and taking consultations. People would come to me for what we called it then in those days a sitting. People would sit with me and I would sit with them, and we would all sit with the spirit world, and we would have conversations with the spirit world, and it actually worked out really, really well. And at this point, the point at where I begin my story this morning, at this point, I had yet to talk to anyone overseas. So the majority of my clients would come to me. They were in England, and they would come, and we would do our face to face. And of course, in the beginning, I was nervous, but as we got along and as we did it, and as it worked more and more and more, and the results were fine, I felt very comfortable doing it. My first consultation, my first sitting, as we call it, was with a lovely lady whose name I've long since forgotten. But I do remember her very clearly because we had a great time. Her loved ones in the spirit world came through to talk to her. She sat crying and laughing with me, as we do in our consultations. We always cry, but we always laugh too. And so at the end of that, I remember her saying to me, you know, Rosemary, I nearly didn't come to see you. And I said, oh, really? Why is that? She looked me right in the eye and she said, well, you don't charge enough. What? What do you mean? So she said, well, I didn't think you could be any good because, you know, you don't charge enough. Well, I mean, you hardly charge anything. And it was true that when I first began to do this work, I felt it was so special and it was such a great gift that I didn't like charging too much because I felt, you know, this has to be for everybody. So I should make it available for everybody. But you see, that is not the psychology of the thing. That is not the right psychology of the thing. And it turned out that, you know, after this particular consultation, after a while, I put my prices up just a bit. And the most amazing thing happened. Instead of getting 1 or 2 people a week, I started getting more people, and then there was a waiting list. And then at some point, after about a year, I put my prices up again, and then the waiting list got bigger. And it seemed that the more I charged, the more people thought I must be really, really good, because I charged, you know, this amount of money. That meant that, wow, you know, well, she charges a lot, but she's obviously worth it, or she must obviously be worth it. I have to tell you that no matter how much I charged, it had absolutely nothing to do and did not affect in any way the quality of the work. Those people in the spirit world still came to talk to me. I still gave messages. Nothing really changed on that end of things. But it was pretty good for me in a way, because now it meant that I was able to pay my bills and feed my daughter and do all of those things that everybody has to do, because I did not have a man in my life to pay for those things for me. So now we sort of get, you know, sort of further on, and people locally, and when I say locally, I'm talking now perhaps sort of 20, 30 miles around us. People started to know my name. People, unbeknownst to me, people were talking to other people about me and this woman, and she lives in the village of Epworth, and she's this and this, and you've got, and so on and so forth. And so people started. That's how it works, isn't it? It's word of mouth. I only ever once, the very first time, put an advertisement in the newspaper, and it was a teeny tiny little, I think it was 3 or 4 lines. I still wish I had it. I should have kept it, shouldn't I? But it was 3 or 4 lines, and it said something like, I don't even remember what it said, you know, medium takes consultations and here's the phone number. That was it. That was, you know, that was pretty much what we said. Anyway, and I never had to advertise after that, because people started to understand. People went away and said, she's amazing. I went to see her and she's amazing, and so on and so forth. And word of mouth spread and spread and spread. Okay, so now I had at this point become to know very well Mick Maguire, who was himself a healer and had been president of the Spiritualist Church in the city of Doncaster for I think about 5 years. And so he sort of was on my team along with 3 or 4 other people. You have to read The Eagle and the Rose to find out the whole story, because I'm not going to tell you the whole story. And after all, it is the 25th anniversary still. Yes, I know. This year we're celebrating all year long the 25th year of the first publication of The Eagle and the Rose, which is amazing. And it's still selling today as it did then. And it's still a fascinating story today, as much as, if not more so than it was then. Anyway, so now here we are. So people are getting to know me. And one day Mick approached me and he said he knew somebody in this tiny little spiritualist church in the town of, oh gosh, Stainforth. Those of you in Yorkshire, are you are you recognizing some of these names? Stainforth was a teeny little mining village I don't know what it's like now. Maybe it's grown or maybe it's disappeared altogether. Who knows? But in this little tiny village was a spiritualist church. And when I say a spiritualist church, it was a bit bigger than a good size hut, a big hut. It was like it's quite a big building, could house probably 150 to maybe even 200 people inside, but it just was a hut on this ground, didn't look like a church of any description. Anyway, Mick knew the president of this church, and he so came this particular night. He said to me, Rosemary, they've asked if you'll come and speak to them. And for those of you who don't know much about spiritualist churches, let me tell you that what they try to do as much as possible, spiritualist churches try to have a medium. Sometimes they have a resident medium in the church who takes the church services every week, and sometimes they have visiting mediums, which was, I suppose, what I was. Now, I'd never, been as a visiting medium. I'd never spoken anywhere, actually. I'd never spoken to anybody. At this point, I'd been taking private consultations, and that was as much as I could tell you that I did. I had, because Mick had taken me once to a spiritualist church in Doncaster, I had been to a spiritualist church with Paul and Irene Denham and with my friend Mick, and watched how they did things. Very different than a regular church that I was used to. They'd have a prayer, sing a few hymns, have another prayer, and then the medium, whether she was a resident medium or visiting medium, would then go into the audience and give messages to the congregation, give messages to the congregation. Then after that, they would say a prayer, sing another hymn, and bingo, the service was over. And so, so that was my one time of going into a spiritualist church. So now Mick said to me, so they've invited you to come as the resident medium, and I think you should do it. So I was very nervous about it and didn't really want to do it, and didn't feel comfortable talking in large groups. I was okay at this point with one-on-one, but I didn't really want to do a big group. But Mick assured me it was okay, and he said, it's a small, tiny church. There's hardly going to be anybody there. Maybe a handful of people. So I thought, okay, well, I can do it then. So now here we are, Sunday, sort of late afternoon, getting ready for this church service. Okay, so I sort of sat in front of the mirror, my dressing table, sat in front of the mirror, and looked in the mirror, and to my absolute shock, I'd got all these weird blemishes, these all big sort of red things all over my face, and I'm thinking, what's going on? And I had felt very calm all day long. I'd felt okay. I didn't feel nervous really at all about any of it. I thought, I can manage this. There's only going to be a few people. We can do this. So I saw these red blotches. So I thought, I'll put some makeup on. So I covered them with makeup, and as I covered them with makeup, they started getting a bit bigger and a bit redder. So I put more makeup on. And the more I started worrying about it, and the more frustrated I got, the more makeup I put on, and the more I tried to cover them up. By the time I'd finished putting my makeup on, which took ages, I was so flustered. My neck, and I mean from here, my chest upwards, was bright red and big red lumpy blotches. And I am not exaggerating. I know you look at me and you think she couldn't possibly really look like that bad, but really I did. And I didn't know at the time, but obviously these were hives that were all over my face. And the more I tried to cover them up, the more it didn't work, and the bigger they got and the redder they got, and so on, until at some point I looked at the clock and I knew that if I didn't go now, that I wouldn't go at all. I'd be late. I wouldn't go at all. So I drove to the church, which was about a half an hour drive away. And as I'm driving, I'm sort of calming myself down, and I'm telling myself that it's really not that bad. It's, really, it's not that bad. It only looks bad to me because it's me. Nobody else will notice. Who was I kidding? So I pulled into the car park of the church, and I got out, and Mick and his friends were there. And I got out of the car, and he took one look at me, and he said, "Oh, nervous are you?" "Nervous are you?" So I said, "Can you tell?" He started laughing. He said, "It'll be okay, Blumpy." I said, "Don't do that." He said, "Well, you've got lumps and bumps all over your face." So I said, "Well, thanks. Well, now let's go into church, shall we, and see what we can do with this." And I know that I did get some very weird looks, because as I stood there in front of the congregation, when it was my turn, they called me up, and I was standing there. Um, you know, we talked earlier on. We talked last week. We've talked all week on and off about appearances, and how we pay so much attention to appearances, and here I was looking like this. And also, I'd forgotten to mention that my face was also quite swollen, so I looked like this with red blotches. And I'm sure that anybody looking at me would probably think, who is she and what on earth is she doing? And surely, no, 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 surely she's not going to be any good at this. But once I had settled down, and I felt Regal's hand on my shoulder, I was able to just get on with the job. One of the problems was that, we thought there were only going to be a few people there, but I'd already said to you that, my name had started to go out. So the church was full, which was totally unexpected. But the messages were absolutely great, and everybody was happy at the end of it. And I think I did a pretty good job. It took several days for my face to get back to its proper size and its proper color. But it's amazing. You don't sometimes even realize that you're nervous, and then all of a sudden, there it is. So after that, amazingly, they invited me back, not for my looks, but certainly, they invited me back because the quality of the messages, the quality of the mediumship was absolutely fantastic, which I'm pleased to say. Now, I remember maybe a couple of years after this, going to visit the same village spiritualist church, because I was going to ask the president of the church if she would allow myself and my students to work in her church. And I was going to give my students a taste of what it was like to stand up there, just like I had to do the first time around. And we walked in, and sitting there, sort of not expecting great things, but not expecting great things, just simply wondering who the medium would be. And this lady came into the church, and she was wearing sort of let's say a pair of black pants, over which she wore a dress, over which she wore an overall, and the pants were long, the dress was shorter, the overall was shorter still, and then over the overall, on top of the overall, she wore a long a cardigan, which was shorter than the overall, and the sleeves sort of came over her fingers like this, and she was sort of holding the sleeves in her hands. She was an odd-looking figure. Unfortunately, she was cross-eyed. Her eyes, you could never tell quite where she was looking. You didn't know if she was looking at you or if she was looking at somebody else. Her hair was quite straggly, and my daughter was with me, and a few of my students were with me, and I could hear. And my daughter's not always a nice person. She's actually a lovely person, but you know what I'm saying. She looked at me and she said, "Mum, what have we come to?" And I said to her, remembering my first time, I said to her, "Samantha, you know, let's not make judgments. I know she looks odd, she looks a bit weird, but let's wait and see, because she might be absolutely brilliant. She might be one of the best mediums we've ever heard. You cannot tell by looking at someone what they're going to be or how they're going to be, not just within my little world, but you know, with anything. You know, you can't tell if somebody can be a good joiner or a good mechanic or a good doctor. You cannot tell by looks alone. And some of the worst looking people turn out to be the best at what they do very often. So I'm saying to my daughter, let's, you know, just wait and see, because I remember standing up there with my swollen face, red and blotchy, having Mick Maguire really take a lot of fun out of making me feel even more uncomfortable, and watching the blotches grow bigger and bigger and redder, and having fun at my expense. And I thought, not going to do this with this lady. We're going to wait and see. So um, so what can I tell you? It was an experience. And my students at first being admonished by me and saying, and hearing me saying, just because she doesn't look the part doesn't mean she isn't the part. Let's wait and see. So we were all very respectful, and we were all being very nice until the first moment she grabbed hold of her sleeve of her cardigan and used it as a sort of a handkerchief. And I have a thing about noses. I'm not good at it. If I hear somebody sniffing too loudly, I can easily just start gagging. I don't know what it is. I have this very light gag reflex, and my daughter knew it. And so the next that came along, my eyes are beginning to water just a little bit, and I'm thinking, oh God, gosh, you know, where I've got, you know, I'm trying to look down, and my daughter is starting to giggle at my discomfort, but also at the horrible event that was taking place in front of us, because this poor, lovely lady, she would say, "I'm coming to you there," and she'd point, but her eyes were going this way. I have to tell you that at the end of this hour watching this lady, my whole team were heads down, holding their stomachs, trying not to laugh out loud. And I was disgusted with all of them, except that I was having difficulty too. And all of the people in the church who ran the church, the president and all of the committee members that were sitting in front of us, and they were all hanging their heads down, and we were getting glares and stares from people on the opposite side of the road, which of course they were right, because they were right to be angry with us. They were right to be annoyed with us, because we weren't being very nice, were we? None of us were being very nice. And why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story to show you that I'm a really horrible person sometimes, because at the end of all of this, with the outfit, with the using of the handkerchief, the cardigan, with all of this that is going on, it could have been absolutely amazing nevertheless. And in fact, what it turned out to be was really, really awful, and it was so sad. It was so sad. What I wondered then, and often think about since then, is, you know, if it's your first time and you go to see something, whether the person looks gorgeous, whether they look blumpy, whether they look raggedy, whether they look like they need a good bath or whether they are the most perfect person in the world doesn't really matter, does it? If it's your first time in a spiritual church, or if it's your first time going to see someone who does this sort of thing, and what you see is just what you hear, and what you see is just awful, and you absolutely know that the person doing this is sort of just fooling themselves. Perhaps, let's be nice and say that they're fooling themselves. They think that they have a gift and they're sharing that gift, but unfortunately it's all in their own mind, it's all in their own head. If you went into a church for the first time, if you went to hear a message from a medium for the first time, and you heard stuff like that, and then you saw this picture, I'm referring to me as well, and you saw all of that, how sad that would be, and how bad that would be, and how many people have been turned away or turned off. Not so much because of somebody's appearance, but I do think that if you're going to stand in a public place, you need to be respectful of the people you're going to be standing in front of, and at least look, clean and tidy. That you don't have to look beautiful, you just have to have made a bit of an effort with yourself. But I think that sort of, if you're going to stand in front of people and you're going to give messages, could we make sure, how do we make sure that those people don't go away disappointed? And not only disappointed, worse than that is that they often go away not just disappointed, but majorly disillusioned, seriously disillusioned, because they've had a really bad experience, and they assume that that one bad experience means that every medium, everyone who does this work is just perhaps as awful as they might look, or not as beautiful as they might look, or whatever it is. We have to try to get over how a person looks, and listen to what it is that they say, and watch to see what they do. So that was my first couple of experiences. The one was me looking terrible. The one was looking at someone else looking terrible. I try to give the benefit of the doubt. When I hear someone who is giving messages from the spirit world and they are fake, I try very hard not to judge them, because I think maybe they believe that what they're doing is real. I try to give the benefit of the doubt, but I think that the moral of this story, if there is any moral to this story, the moral of this story should be that if you hear someone and they are good, or you see someone and they are good, no matter what they look like, whether they look really awful, sniffling like this, whether they look blotchy and blumpy, whatever it is they look like, or whether they look like a beauty queen, does not matter. What they say matters, what they do matters. And if you see someone who is not what they are supposed to be, I think it's up to every one of us to stand up and say, I'm sure that you mean well, but you need to stop doing this now, because this isn't right and this isn't real. And we don't only need to say it, I think, for our own selves. I think we need to say it for all of those people who go for the first time to see something like this, or to hear something like this, or to hear somebody talking to the spirit world and giving messages from the spirit world. And they go for the first time, and the first time, if it is an awful time, might be their very last, and it might end their belief in the possibility of a life after death. So don't judge a book by its cover. Judge the book by what they say, how they say it, their kindness, their gentleness, and their ability to do their job in a way that is right, and not just their imagination spilling over. So there you have a picture of me, a swollen face, lots of horrible hives, doing the best I can. It was not the first time. I'm sure it won't be the last time that I get nervous when I do these things. Fortunately, I've never ever had a breakout like that ever again. That doesn't mean to say that one day you might turn on the TV and there will be broken out in all my wonderful glory. But you know, we can do a lot with makeup. Wait a minute, do I have any on? No, I don't. But anyway, that is my story. I thought you'd like to hear um, the good and the bad of being a medium, and the stuff that we see and the stuff that we need to go through, and the you know, I suppose it's an apprenticeship, isn't it? And so with that, the end. Chris.
So everybody's been intrigued. I'm loving the comments. As I'm reading them to you, though, Rosemary, just know that these comments came in before you hit the moral of the story, okay?
I'm not sure there is a moral, but anyway, go ahead.
All right. Vicky says, hi all from the UK. That pub in Epworth did a roaring trade because of your clients. It was always our next stop.
Oh, right. Okay.
Julia says, your Eagle in the Rose book helped me tremendously when my mom passed away 19 years ago. Another big thank you.
Oh,
And
you're very welcome.
I'm feeling low and sad today. Does Gray Eagle have any supportive words for me? Thank you for everything you do.
Well, he tells me that there's someone in the spirit world, my darling, singing to you, "You are my sunshine." So if you could remember, you know, that song, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." I used to sing this to my little puppy, Feather. "You make me
Happy?
happy when skies are grey. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you." See, I think this might be your mummy singing to you. "Please don't take my sunshine away." There you go. Chris.
My dad used to sing that to me.
Oh, did he really? Oh,
Yeah.
That's for you too. How nice is that?
Yeah. Junior's saying, good afternoon, Rosemary, Gray Eagle, and Chris. Making bread. I hope you are feeling joyful. Love, light, laughter, and life to you.
Oh, Junior, what kind of bread are you making? And can I have the recipe, please? And do you use dried yeast? You know, years ago when I lived in Epworth, I mentioned Epworth right earlier on in my story. Years ago, you could go into the baker shop and you could ask for an ounce or a half an ounce or whatever it was of fresh yeast, which I always used to use to make my bread. And I found it's definitely, to my mind anyway, definitely better than using dried yeast. You can actually get blocks of it if you go to Amazon, but it doesn't seem quite the same to me, and I've never quite know how to use it. So, Junior, give me the recipe. I want the recipe, please. I love bread baking. I've got some great recipes, but I understand you're in Scotland, so let's see what you can come up with, please, for me. Right, Chris.
Julia says, this story always makes me laugh. Sniff, sniff, ha ha.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And my daughter is horrible about these things. I do have, it's an awful thing for me to admit to, but if somebody has a really bad cold, my eyes start watering up. When I hear the sniffling and the snuffling, and my eyes start watering up, and anything to do with noses is like, so you've got to stop. I don't, you know, and I have to either leave the space, or I remember sitting on a bus once with somebody who did that continually behind me, and I could not help it. I was sitting gagging the whole way on the bus journey. I just not them, it's me, and it's my, for whatever reason, it's my very, very sensitive gag reflex. But my daughter makes sure, and she's also made sure that Reese knows too. So the two of them, when they get going, sometimes Samantha has only got to point to her nose and say, look at Reese and say, you know, nose to me, and then they start laughing. And then if I don't stop them, they come out with these horrible stories. Anyway, that's just a family thing. Keep going, Chris.
Well,
I've got lovely children, grandchildren.
Maggie says, I'm with Samantha and laughing. I would have been hiding behind someone while trying to watch you.
Well,
And
yeah, I
then
mean,
and
go
then
ahead.
she continues, cross eyes runs in my family, and my cousin always said in family photos, you never knew where everyone was looking, crossing her arms in an X, making us laugh.
That's funny. Yeah.
Sharon saying, good morning from Singapore.
Good
Dear
morning.
Rosemary, love these stories. Thank you for brightening my day.
Well, I'm glad I brightened your day. Chris, keep
Then,
going. Keep them
then,
coming.
yep, Vicky says, I saw you in a hall in Retford in front of 200 to 300 people. You looked absolutely beautiful, an added benefit to your incredible messages that evening.
Oh my goodness, yes. Wow, were you at Retford when I was at Retford? Oh my goodness, I almost told that story this morning. There were crowds and crowds of people going all the way out from the I think it was a church we were using. No, it might have been the theatre there. Crowds and crowds going down and around. We couldn't fit anybody in to get everybody into the theatre. So I actually, on my friend Kay, was struggling to get onto the stage. We were talking about this, Chris, weren't we?
We were.
Just before the show, I went and I said to Kate, "Can you keep everybody happy? Just talk to them for a minute or two, the audience, while I just go and say hello to the people who are, waiting, because people have been waiting for ages and ages outside." So I went and I walked the lines and said hello to people and talked to people, and nobody really knew who I was. I was just this skinny thing in high heels saying hello and thank you for coming. I'm so sorry you can't get in. And eventually people got to realize, is that her? That must be her. Anyway, I walked back into the theatre, and here is a very funny story. My Alexa's making funny noises here. So I walked back into the theatre, and the theatre's crowded. I don't know if this young lady remembers this part of it, but the stage was way at the front, and it was a high stage. And because the place was so crowded, people were standing down the sides. I'm sure we were breaking every fireman's rule in the book. And people were sitting, there were stairs leading up to the stage, but people were sitting packed on the stairs. So my friend Kay could, instead of saying excuse me to the people on the stage, I need to get on the stage, she decided she'd climb up. So I walk into the theatre in time to see her, and she's half on the stage, half off the stage, one knee on the stage, trying to haul herself up onto the stage. And all I could do was I just laughed and laughed and laughed, because was not very nice of me. See, I'm a horrible person. I'm warning you all. I just have this horrible sense of humor. And this poor girl, sort of finally, she gave one shove and sort of landed on her stomach and her face on the stage. And then she had to get up, brush herself off, and turn around with the microphone, looking professional, as if she hadn't just thrown herself onto the stage. Anyway, there we have it. We had such good times in those days. I'd love to hear from this lovely lady. I bet it was it good? Was it a good night? I think it might have been. Were the messages great? Let's hear that. If there weren't, you can tell us. I'm pretty sure they were. But anyway, Chris.
Mark is saying, hello, I'm checking in from Hillcrest Hospital and sorry I'm late. Keep me in your prayers. It's been a rough road, Rosemary. Can you send
Oh,
healing?
darling, we did hear that you were in the hospital. Thank you for letting us know. We are sending lots and lots of healing. Please keep us posted on your progress. Can you imagine? You had a great birthday. I did sing a happy birthday to you, and then you went and landed in hospital on your birthday. What's going on here, Mark? But we are sending lots of prayers and lots of love, my darling.
Maggie says, we learned don't judge a book by its cover from my parents.
Yes. Oh, good. Sometimes, though, sometimes it's the sight is so startling, isn't it? Sometimes the sight is so startling, and you wonder, did it what? You think, did I just see that? Is that really? But years ago, I'm going to tell another story. See, it's Saturday morning, so I can do what I like, can't I? I can tell you lots of stories. I was in a restaurant in where was I? I'm trying to think where I was. I was in England. I was I was in bins. So remember bins? I don't know that they still have bins in Scunthorpe of all places. And I was with my friend Joan, and we went to have some lunch at the restaurant in bins. So it's a store for those of you wondering what bins is. But anyway, it was a store. And we were sitting there, and we noticed that there were these ladies, 3 or 4 ladies, older ladies, wearing tweed coats and hats, and with little sort of nice little hats, and they were all dressed beautifully, and they were having lunch there. And as we're sitting there eating our lunch, I noticed that this older lady had walked in, and she was waiting by the counter to get whatever she was getting for her lunch. And she was wearing um, a sort of purplish pink, sort of purple, was it pink with purple trims or whatever it was? Anyway, this dress. And it was a gorgeous dress. It was very sort of silky and light and flowy, and trimmed at the bottom with this lovely dark purplish ribbon. And she was wearing sort of pinkish purple shoes. She had these big round plastic bracelets on her wrist. They were pink and purple. She a lot of makeup, the good sized lipstick. She was just, and to my mind, and she had to be in a late 70s or even in her 80s, but anyway, and to my mind, she looked fantastic. Now, a lot of people are looking at her, giving her the once over. You can people sort of making sneery comments. You can see people looking down their noses at her, and I'm thinking, oh, when I'm that age, that's I want to be her. That's who I want to be. I want to be her. And these the older ladies sitting there with their tweed coats and their hats and so on and so forth, you could see them, you could hear them making disparaging comments and so on and so forth. And they obviously knew her, and she knew them, because when she got her plate with her scone or whatever it was, and she took it to their table, and she asked could she sit next to them, and every one of them turned their backs on her, every one of them. And I wanted to go and shout at them, rage at them. I really wanted to. And unfortunately, I would have invited to my table, but we were just on the verge of leaving. And so she ended up sitting by herself, and she was ostracized, obviously, severely ostracized by people of her own age who preferred their tweed coats and their hats, and what they thought of her as anybody's guess. To my mind, she looked fantastic, and it reminds me of that fantastic poem, "When I am old, I will wear purple." And my daughter could never say purple. When she was a little girl, she would always say purple. She could never say the word purple. She'd say purple. So when I say that, when I am old, I will wear purple. And for those of you who have never heard that poem, go Google it. When I am old, I will wear purple. It is fantastic. I will take my walking stick and run it along the railings. In other words, when I'm old, I will wear purple means I won't obey the rules anymore. I'm not going to obey the rules of society. I'm not going to obey any of the rules, because here I am, this old lady, and if I can't do what I want to do right now, when am I ever going to do what I want to do? And so inspiring. And that wonderful lady, I'll remember her to the end of my days. And she inspired me. And, I think that whatever age you are, just do the best you can. look the best you can. You don't have to look gorgeous. You don't have to have a lot of money. You don't, just be proud and pleased of your humanness and show it in every way that you possibly can. Chris.
Cheryl says, I rewatched your appearances on several TV shows and was
Oh,
struck by how you hold people's hand or stroke them, touching them. It really touched me and shows the compassion you truly have for others.
well, it has to be said, I'm a very tactile person. When I first opened my very first healing center, gosh, all those many years ago, before the book was ever published, by the way, so it's obviously more than 25 years ago, uh, um, we had the first week that we opened, we had I think it was 7 patients, and then the second week we opened, we had another 7 patients, not the same ones. What happened to the first ones, we'll never know. And then we had 7 or 8 more, whatever it was. And from there it increased. But as I watched, and as I watched my students, as I watched how they treated people and how they welcomed people in, the one thing that I noticed more than anything else was that nobody touched anybody. My students were, sort of very respectful. If you'd like to come this way with me, or here is the tea room, or would you like a cup of tea before we give you here, this sort of thing. And it was only when we sort of got our patient in the chair or on the bed that then they would put their hands on this person, but in between, no touching. And the first 2 or 3 times that I was at the center, I was watching, and something was wrong. I knew that something was wrong, and then it suddenly hit me. Nobody's touching anybody. Nobody's putting a hand on somebody's arm and saying, if you come with me, I'll take you into the tea room. Nobody's holding anybody's hand and saying, if you hold my hand and I'll take you into the in and I know that people are very often afraid of being that tactile person, and especially if it's a man and a woman. A woman can be very much mistaken and about a man's intentions, and that the man's intentions are often quite innocent. But I think it's very important when you're talking to people to reach out to them. I think it's very, very important to hold a hand in comfort or in reassurance when you're talking to people. And I think that we all of us should do more of that. So if I can encourage other people, if I said earlier on, it's not what you say that you can do, it's what you say and what you do. And but through these things we can teach other people. And I think that I just reach out. It just breaks my heart sometimes. It just absolutely breaks my heart when I see people, I'm talking to people who are in pain. Somebody's lost a child, somebody's lost their mother, somebody's lost their sister, whatever it is. And you see people in pain, in such pain. How can you not reach out? Because we are feeling that same pain for that person. So I encourage it, and I'm pleased that you noticed that, my darling. Chris.
So 2 people commented on the "You Are My Sunshine" song. Maggie says,
Okay.
my mom would sing that to me too. And Mark says, I sing that song to my first son who's away from me because of my hospitalization.
All right. Well, good. Well, I used to with Feather, my little Feather. She was blind. She went blind fairly young as a puppy. And that doesn't mean that she couldn't see. Of course she could, but the amount of times she fell in the pool was amazing. I had to put a barrier up in the end across the pool area so that she could sort of feel a barrier, sort of her shoulder would hit the barrier, and she would think it was a wall, so she would be able to turn this way and so on. But she loved to cuddle. She was a very naughty little animal in many, many ways, but she really loved to cuddle. And the one song that she would literally, as I sang to her, she would lift her nose up and snuggle it right in here. And I would sing to her, and I think she'd sort of feel the vibration of my voice as well as hear the voice. and she would just snuggle up to me, and she loved that. Was her very, very favorite song that I would sing to her. Chris, keep going.
Carolyn says, I have to say the healing CD, Heartbeat of My Soul, really helps when my energy is low.
Oh, good, good. I'm glad. I'm glad, because that's, what it's what we're trying to do, what we're supposed to do with these healing, these, you know, what do we call them? I don't even know. Healing sessions with these meditations that we have, that are on CD. And if anybody wants to know more about that, just please go to our website, rosemaryaltea.com, and you'll see where you can get those from. But there are 4 of those healing meditations which people really love and are. I'm glad you said they're beneficial, because they really are very, very beneficial. And we also have an amazing um, conversation with Bob, where I talked to one of my patients, and boy, oh boy, he is brilliant. And I'll tell this, maybe I'll tell the story next week, or the week after, or sometime, about my lovely patient Bob, because that's a very funny story, but it's an amazing and inspirational story as well. Chris.
Junior's giving you the recipe for the bread, so
Yay.
I can give that to you afterwards.
Good, thank you so much.
Helen's asking, does Gray Eagle have anything for me? It's been a very stressful day.
You have to look for the sunshine, is as much as I can tell you right now. We want to take as many questions and as many comments as we can today. Keep going, Chris.
Cheryl says, I followed an urge yesterday to buy an instant lottery ticket, kept going on errands to different stores, then bought the tickets at my last stop. I won $75 and just took it thankfully. I don't do it often.
Yay. Well, good for you. It's so funny. I mean, I'll often say I never win anything. I'm not good at winning anything, and then I laugh to myself, because I actually never buy a lottery ticket. So if I don't buy anything, or I don't do anything to win anything, I won't win anything, will I? So good for you. Well done, you. Good job. You need to now take that $75, and you need to sort of just treat yourself to something really, really nice. Chris.
Helen continued on a few chats down, said, I lost my mom tragically and suddenly, and I don't normally do this, but if Gray Eagle has anything for me, I'd be forever grateful.
Well, no, not at the moment, but don't stop asking. Don't stop trying. And we don't mind how many times you ask, if you don't mind how many times I say no, because sometimes you just never know. Sometimes, well, there you are, you see. You see, sometimes it pays off. Sometimes when you ask, it actually pays off. So I was saying no, but, and I don't know, darling, if this applies to you, but I have someone connecting here who was killed very tragically in an accident. And I don't know if this is for you. I get a feeling or a sensation of falling, of some sort of an impact and falling. Um, and I know that it was instant, it was very quick. And I also know that this person made it, because I'm told that she has her wings. And I don't think she's an angel now, but obviously an angel to you. But I'm told by Grey Eagle, safe, safe, safe. So safe, safe, safe. I don't know if that applies to you, but there it is. Go for it, Chris.
Mark said, since I've been in the hospital, I've seen shadows in my room. I'm wondering, is it my mom or G or dad? And I have an amazing story to tell you about what happened when a nurse was taking blood work from me, and I'll write that to you.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to that story. Thank you so much. You have to figure the rest out for yourself, and I think you can. You can. I'm sure you can. Isn't that I, I know I can. I'm sure I can. What is that? What is that? Oh, yes. I am HAPPY. You know that song, everybody? I am HAPPY. I know I am. I'm sure I am. I'm HAPPY. That's what we used to sing at the Salvation Army. Every Saturday morning, the Salvation Army used to have their service and invite anybody. And as kids, we would go and we would sing all those great songs. Chris.
I had not heard that song, but now it's probably going to be sticking with me all day.
How about this then? I am Loved. I am Loved. I know I am. I'm sure I am. I'm Loved. That's the next verse. There's another one too. Keep going. I'll stop. You keep going.
Miriam's asking, does astrology have a role in our personality? I mean, the common signs like Taurus and Virgo.
Well, everything is about energy, isn't it? So I'm sure that, I think it's all interconnected and it's all intertwined. When we talk about soul signs, my soul signs book, it has nothing to do with astrology, but that doesn't mean I discount astrology. Everything is about energy, and we're all part of this great universal, thing that's going on here. And as our soul is created, as we are created, there's certain types of energy that are surrounding us and affecting us all the time as we're growing and as we're learning and so on. And our world is affected by this universal energy, which is sort of amazingly out there. So I think it all is connecting to us, and I think it all does have an effect one way or another.
All right. Sharon's saying, I have been wondering if I am where I need to be in life. I'm worried about disappointing God and my mom. Wonder if Gray Eagle has any message for me.
You darling, as long as you keep trying, you'll never disappoint anybody. uh, God, God will absolutely, definitely not be disappointed in you. And your mother, well, I know for a fact your mother thinks you're wonderful. So there's no way, any way, that you're going to disappoint her. But I think, if you're disappointing yourself, it means that you're not doing enough. So you need to think about what it is that you can do to become more fulfilled within your own self. It's not about pleasing other people, darling. You have to work within you and make the most of life and make the most of who you are, and make the most of who you can be. Chris.
Rosemary, I'm going to need you to address something here. So,
Okay.
Helen, who you just gave the message to about the sudden death, there are some very nice, kind people in the chat room who are, giving their condolences and trying to be helpful. But a certain person, psychic's tarot card reader, told Helen to message them directly in their inbox.
Okay.
And Helen has said that she has done this.
Well, Helen, don't do it. And for anybody out there who thinks that this forum is a way for them to well, please don't do it. Just because somebody's in this forum, just because it's somebody in this chat room, just because there is somebody who says, I can do this and I can do that and I can help and so on, does not mean that they can. And you don't know who this person is. We don't know who this person is. It could be somebody who, and please understand, we're being very respectful here to the person who I'm sure is very sincere, and I'm sure is only trying to help. But this is not the forum for it. And if we see this again, we shall block you. So please don't do it. This is not the forum for you to say to other people on the chat, in the chat room, oh, I can do this and I can do that. And if we find you doing it, we will block you, because this is not a place for that. Before you see someone, before you go to see someone, Helen, before you even think to go and see someone, you need to check them out. You need to find out their reputation. Don't do this blindly, please. None of you out there should be doing this blindly or connecting with somebody blindly. You need a recommendation. You need to talk to somebody before you, and you're in a very, very vulnerable position. People who have lost someone are in extremely vulnerable positions. You're very, very vulnerable. You're very sensitive, and this is when other people can take advantage of you. Please be aware. If we see this again, we shall block you. You may want to be blocked, doesn't matter to me, but this is not the forum for anyone out there to gain or to think that they can reach out to somebody and say, well, I can do this and I can help you. Very nice, and we thank you so very much for that. And it probably comes from a genuine heart, but we will not tolerate it. And for those of you out there who are thinking to go to see a medium or a tarot card reader or a card reader or whatever else it is, would you please stop and think? You are putting yourself in an even more vulnerable position because you don't know anything about the person. Just because somebody's on my chat does not mean that they're real. And we all know that there are fakes out there. We know that. We know that there are people who are fakes. We also know that there are some very, very sincere people who don't have a gift, but they believe that they do. That can be worse. I'm not dismissing anybody who is genuine, but anybody who's genuine would not be playing around like this. If you out there are listening and you want to go and see someone, whether it's a tarot card reader, I can't stop you doing it, but I can advise you, please check them out. You can go check somebody's name on you can Google them. You can check them out. Don't go just to somebody you don't know, because you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know whether that person's real. And I have seen what it can do. I have seen how awful the situation can become. You can become dependent on a person who doesn't know what they're doing at all. So please, 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 if anybody out there would like to help, don't do it on my page. We will block you. And I don't want to block you. And I'm sure that the person who's offering help is very sincere, very gentle, very genuine person. But you cannot do this, and I will not allow you to use my chat room to do this. So please, can anybody thinking about it, can you please refrain? Because if you do it once, we'll, please don't do it. If you do it twice, we're done with you. We shall block you. You will not be able to get back in. We shall block you. And for those of you out there who are tempted, and Helen, don't do it. You don't know who this person is. I don't know who this person is. Just because they're here with us and they seem sympathetic does not necessarily mean that they are real. Can you please be a bit more discerning, my darling? The problem is that when people are in grief and they're so desperate and they need a message because they're so desperate, they tend to go anywhere and do anything, and you can end up in serious, serious emotional distress if you go that route. So don't do it. Chris.
All right. So you have a choice of going out at this time since it's afternoon, or would you like another question or two?
We'll have another couple of questions. If anybody's got a comment on what I just said also, that would be interesting too. I know I sound very harsh when I say these things, but I'm very aware of my responsibilities as a spiritual medium, and it's my responsibility to make you all aware that you're responsible for your own actions. So please make sure that those actions are sane and sensible. Chris.
All right. So the question is from Melissa. How can a person accelerate healing? And by the way, Helen also said that she would not contact them.
Darling Helen, look, my heart goes out to you. It goes out to everyone who's suffering a loss. Please don't be tempted to get yourself into a worse situation. Please be discerning when you go see somebody like me. Please, please, please do that. There are some fabulous people out there. The person who offered help might be one of those fabulous people. If so, she will have a reputation and you'll be able to check her out, okay? You can't accelerate healing. Healing is, the healing press makes me smile because, oh gosh, as human beings, aren't we so impatient? And don't we want something now? and our life at the moment is, so let's do it now, let's have it now, the quick fix. In our healing prayer, we ask, dear God, please allow us to be a part of the healing process, and so on. And at the end of the prayer, we say always, I will to thy will, which means that we are handing over. We can't do any more than trust in that God force and know that whatever speed God chooses to go at, whatever speed the healing process takes, as long as it works one way or another, as long as it works, that's all that matters. So, my darling, please don't be impatient. I'm absolutely sure you've got a good reason for asking that question, but we can't accelerate it. It goes as it goes. Chris?
I think that's it, Rosemary.
Okay. All right. Well, uh, what a mix it's been this morning for story time. I love having you all here. We love all of the comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you, so much for joining us today. We're not doing anything tomorrow because Chris has taken the weekend off, which is not very nice of her. I'm not going to let her forget this, am I? The next time she says to me, I want a weekend off, I think I'm going to say no. I think next week, just because I feel like it, let's have a cooking session next Sunday, shall we? On Monday, we'll be definitely doing something. On Wednesday, we should be definitely doing something. Thursday, of course, will be the Spirit World Sees All at 11 a.m. as usual. And of course, on Saturday, we'll be back for more story time. Don't forget that we also have our webinar on the 26th of June. So if you're interested in that, you need to go book a ticket. And we're going to be we're going to be giving messages from the spirit world all the way through the 3-hour webinar that we're doing. And what else, Chris? I think that's about it. We should be doing off the cuff stuff. Probably not today or tomorrow because Chris isn't there. So I'm going to make her feel so bad. She'll have to think twice before she takes another weekend off. Actually, really, to be really perfectly honest, Chris, I do hope you have a fantastic weekend and do enjoy yourself. Even though you've left me out in the cold, I do want you to do what you to enjoy yourself, my darling. Anyway, and so let's see what else. So until I see you all again, I'd like to say thank you very much to Chris for really all you do. You do deserve a weekend off. Thank you to Grey Eagle, of course, as always. Thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you all. Mark, please get better soon. Keep us posted and send us that story. Junior, thank you for the recipe, and thank you all for your lovely, lovely comments, and thank you for your presence here. Until I see you all again, please, everybody, have a very, very blessed rest of the day and have a very blessed weekend, everybody.